in Basel on Sunday, defending champions England will play world champion Spain to decide who'll win the European crown. Spain are the favourites, emerging from the darkness, the wilderness 4 years ago. Monse Tome's side are now the second best in the world, with a depth of talent mainly from a brilliant Barcelona side and 2 Ballon d'Or winners. They have a total football way of playing that's now put them on course to emulate what Spain's men did in 2010 and become the global and continental champions at the same time. While England have Serena Wiegmann and a never-say-die ethos. The Dutch boss is the first manager in the men's and the women's game to reach 5 straight major finals, and England's late substitutes have pulled them back from the brink twice, and they've survived penalties. So the question is, will Spain dominate possession and cut through the tired Lionesses who've had 2 stints of extra time? And will Serena's substitutes come too late this time to save England? Or will England manage to catch out Spain's defence as they push up? And could they do what no other English senior team has ever done, which is defend a title and win one not on home soil? History awaits them both. 2 years ago in Sydney, Spain broke England's hearts. Olga Carmona's first half goal gave La Roja their first ever World Cup. And now, after also winning last year's Nations League, they aim to complete a first ever treble of major trophies.
We have a team that has played important games and tournaments. Each of us knows how to manage that pressure, those emotions that sometimes arise. But I believe we are a team that doesn't see this game as a pressure, we see it more as an opportunity to continue writing history.
The odds favour them. Spain have won all 5 of their matches so far, scoring 17 goals and conceding 3. Their star-studded side includes 2-time Ballon d'Or winners Alexia Putellas and Aitana Bonmatí, plus most of the Barcelona team, and they're ranked 2nd in the world. While England's campaign has aged their fans, an opening loss, twice coming back from the brink and edging a heart-stopping shootout, they've reached the final the hard way. And twice in the knockout rounds, thanks to late substitutes Chloe Kelly and teenage star Michelle Aguimang.
I think every tournament, of course, you want to perform, and there's expectations, but you also have expectations for yourself. I just know that going into a final is already very, very special, and making the final, there's only 2 teams that can make the final. So if you talk about pressure, that's not really a pressure. It's very special.
Spain's recent meteoric rise to greatness includes a win over England in June in an unbeaten run of 10 straight victories. Now La Roja are just 90 minutes from immortality. But the last team to beat them, England, who are out to avenge their World Cup final defeat by remaining Queens of Europe. It promises to be a battle royal here at St Jakob. Kate Partridge, TRT World, Basel, Switzerland. Lynsey, as I say, a remarkable final. But when we saw France beat England in that opening game of the tournament, were we actually thinking they were going to go on and retain their trophy?
I don't think any fan or anyone else could claim that they thought England would go on and retain the trophy at that point, and I certainly wouldn't claim that. But what I would say is having people in the camp, in and around the camp, the players themselves, they believed. There was never a point where they doubted themselves, and they went into the next games. And I think they knew that that group stage was the opportunity to try things. And also, if something didn't go right, they could afford to lose 1 game, which is what they did, and just gain some momentum as they went. But we all know in major football and in major tournaments that what you want to do is bring your best football for the final. And I think England did that tonight. I think they played their best football in the final against Spain and were deserving winners in the end.
Well, after that gripping Women's Euros final, let's head over to Basel, where our sports presenter Kate Partridge is at St Jacobs Park to give us all the reaction. Kate, over to you.
Hi there, Charlotte. Yes, it was indeed a remarkable final. And as you say, the Lionesses, they do it the hard way, don't they? And it left a sort of breathlessness when they finally won it on penalties. And when I say we, I'm joined by sports journalist and football journalist indeed, Lynsey Hooper, who watched it with me. Lynsey, as I say, a remarkable final. But when we saw France beat England in that opening game of the tournament, were we actually thinking they were going to go on and retain their trophy?
I don't think any fan or anyone else could claim that they thought England would go on and retain the trophy at that point, and I certainly wouldn't claim that. But what I would say is having people in the camp, in and around the camp, the players themselves, they believed. There was never a point where they doubted themselves, and they went into the next games. And I think they knew that that group stage was the opportunity to try things. And also, if something didn't go right, they could afford to lose one game, which is what they did, and just gain some momentum as they went. But we all know in major football and in major tournaments that what you want to do is bring your best football for the final. And I think England did that tonight. I think they played their best football in the final against Spain and were deserving winners in the end.
Well, as you say, they had faith in themselves, but they also had faith in their coach. Also, the fans did as well, didn't they? Sarina Wiegman. There have been criticisms of her choices, but today, did you get it spot on?
Yeah, and I think it's really hard to criticise Sarina Wiegman, and you just really go from the reaction online from fans, but I think the substitutes had been questioned, that they'd been leaving them too late, and of course this is a collective, it's Sarina, but it's also her coaching staff as well. Today, her hand was forced. Lauren James was a gamble. She technically is the best player, is left and right footed, so against a team like Spain was going to be a great asset. That gamble didn't quite pay off because she'd been holding this ankle injury. She went down. She had done some great work in defence and tracking back, but you could see she wasn't quite right. But then I think a lot of people thought that Beth Mead would be the player who she would bring on, and she did do so in the last semi-final. But actually, it was Chloe Kelly. And you look at that Spain high line and the way they defend, and going into this match, they must have spoken about that no end. And the high line, you needed pace in behind, and that's what Chloe Kelly gives you. They had an outlet. They weren't trapped in their own defensive third as much.
Indeed. And also, Chloe Kelly is obviously talismanic as well, and that has a psychological effect, doesn't it? But they've made history. Sarina has made history. It's quite a moment, isn't it, in terms of the coach, but also the team in terms of what they've done.
Yeah, I think the home Euros in England, for the legacy of the game, it was a game changer. You know, the game grassroots, the amount of fans now we see here in Basel as well that have made that trip to come and support England. We are filling stadiums for domestic games as well. But to do it back to back, you know, what can this mean? I think it's going to set a stall out for football in England going forward, that this is what we call a generation of winners, but a generation that's been backed by their federation, by the FA in England. This is a team that's unrecognisable from the one that won in 2022 in some respects. You know, there's some players that are still there, like Lucy Bronze, who had her leg strapped at the end there. But
holding on.
There's a lot of players that have come through the pathway, and it has been very successful. And we're here in Switzerland, and you look at the legacy hopefully they'll have here as well from hosting such a brilliant tournament. And that's all we can hope for, is that grassroots football also benefits.
And finally, talking about young players coming through, Michelle Aguiman got the award as well, didn't she? Hannah Hampton, obviously, as well, brilliantly in goal. To do that in a penalty shootout, and also to save from Aitana Bonmati as well. That's quite an iconic moment, isn't it?
That was an iconic moment. And I think coming into this tournament, a lot of people were talking about the absence of Mary Earps. She'd obviously withdrawn just a few weeks prior to coming out to Switzerland to the training camp. And Hannah Hampton had a lot of pressure on her shoulders because the other goalkeepers, if anything had have happened, didn't have an England cap between them as backup. So she's had to shoulder a lot. But I think there's that moment where she's got the blooded nose and she makes the penalty saves against Sweden. And I think that was a turning point for Hannah Hampton and her career going forward. I think she's going to be a goalkeeper to watch out for. She's at Chelsea, who are perennial winners, and now she's had this experience with England. And I think fundamentally it was that experience that they've had that's gone before from a collection of those players in that dressing room that got them over the line. And everything that they've learned throughout this tournament at quarter-final stage, semi-final, they've taken it into the final. The fact that they've come from behind, they haven't known when they've been beaten, and they didn't in this final.
Never say die, as they say. That was the ethos, and in the end it paid off, didn't it? Well, commiserations to Spain, but congratulations to England. They are the European champions yet again.